Welcome learners to this another session of Certificate in Fashion Design program. So this is part 2 of the earlier session we discussed on handling, care and practice of sewing machine. So in earlier session we discussed about the activity 7 which was on practice on threading, oiling, handling and care of sewing machine. In this session we will discuss about the activity 8 which is on machine controls and sewing practices. So when we in the earlier session we discussed how we will start the sewing machine, what all precautions we have to follow when we are using the sewing machine, what all safety measures we have to take care about, how we will set up the sewing machine. Basic terms we discuss while like inserting the sewing needle and threading of the machine, and then about the bobbin and bobbin case. So when we have discussed and we know about the basic all things of the sewing machine, so it comes about practicing how we will practice the sewing part, like which is the most important part of the of this course. So why this activity is very important and for you to learn, and what all things you will gain after going through this activity. So when we talk about machine control and sewing practices, after doing this activity or practicing this activity, we say you can develop proficiency in handling the sewing machine. Then when you practice many times like stitching practices you develop a proficiency or you develop good control over the sewing machine and get a fluency on how you can do the stitching. So you can develop speed control, you can handle the movement of the machine, you can get a good control on the foot part of the machine and do your stitching very easily and with very expertise. So we can say like sewing is all about creative skills. So there are the more you practice about the stitching, the more accurate and more creative stitching you can do. So you can experiment a lot with it, and after doing this activity or after practicing this activity, once you have perfected these all sewing practices, you can go on with the sewing of the fabric or the final garment. So if you are the beginner and if you want just using the sewing machine for the first time, there are some process or some practice experiments what you can do with the stitching the fabric, or first you have to do stitching the papers you can do. So some materials what we require for doing this practice or this experiment of machine control and sewing practice, the things or materials we require is the sewing machine, which we can use the normal domestic machine which is single needle lock stitch machine. You have to be with a good knowledge and understanding of machine. So in the earlier activity was all based on the knowing about the sewing machine, the basic precautions, basic safety measures and setting of the machine. So when you have a good knowledge and understanding of machine, you can go for the stitching practice. Then what you need to do this activity is a thick paper sheet of A4 size. So you need a paper for practicing, and it should be of A4 size. Then you need a sewing kit. In sewing kit you generally have the scissors, threads, all types of pins you have the marking chalk and etc. all for in your sewing kit. So all these materials you required before starting this activity. Then what you can do, you can sit in front of a machine with a right foot on the foot treadle and switch on the machine. So if you have the treadle machine which is operated by the foot, so you can sit in front of the machine with a right foot on the foot treadle, switch on the machine and then to practice controlling machine speed. speed, set the pressure foot in a raised position to prevent the feed dog from contacting the under surface or the sole of the pressure foot. Then what you can do, you can press the throttle with your foot, control the machine action with a slow uniform speed. When you are starting the machine, just control the machine action with a slow and uniform speed. Don't put the foot in that pressure that machine goes very fast. Just go very slow with the machine, control the machine action with a slow and uniform speed, and you should try to run the machine very slowly. So for the first time you are using, just do the machine, operate the machine very slowly. Then first you start the sieving practice on paper. So when you are doing a practice on a paper, what you can do, practice will lead to accuracy and confidence. So fabric, when you are using directly, you are practicing or starting your first sieving experience on the fabric, you will not get that much efficiency that you will just practice on the paper, because paper is very stiff and you get a very good clean stitch when you go with the practice with the paper. So practice will lead you accuracy and confidence. Use a thick paper for sieving exercise, because controlling or handling a fabric when you go for a stitching is something different. You need very good care and expertise when you go with the fabric. So if you are a beginner, just start with sieving practice on the paper. Then place a layer of fabric below the paper as a backing for easy movement of the paper over the feed dog. Like if you are using a paper, just keep a layer of fabric below the paper for the easy movement of the paper on the feed dog. Then fix the needle, but do not thread the machine. First what you have to do, you have to fix the needle on the needle bar, but don't do the threading on the machine. Then stitch the exercise having to be done without threading on the machine. Just practice having practice on the speed or to control the speed of the machine. Just do a stitching or the stitching on the paper without threading the machine. Then what you can do, you can for the each exercise you can do it 3 times. Do more if you want, or if you don't feel confident, you can do many times till the time you get or to achieve the perfection on your stitching or control on the machine. Then there are some ways you can, or some directions which are recommended to start with the stitching practices. For that you can start with the sieving straight line. As in the picture you can see, there are some straight lines at a particular distance is drawn. So what you can do, you can take your piece of paper and you can draw certain lines parallelly on that piece of paper. Then sew straight parallel line of the stitches. Then practice stitching straight, but don't go so fast. Then start at the top and end at the bottom. Like if you have drawn straight lines on a paper, just put the first line below the needle and insert the needle on that particular point and just do a simple straight stitch on that particular line. So this practice is done so that you can get a perfection in stitching a straight line. If you go without drawing a straight line, without any marking on the paper, you will not achieve in having a straight stitch. So when you practice with this type of measures, like you draw lines on a paper and just do simple stitching on that particular line, you will achieve or you will gain with the stitching straight on the fabric or the paper you are using. So start at the top and end at the bottom. start at the upper right hand corner, and so that the excess of is towards the left. So what we do, we just start from the right side of the corner, so that the left part or the bigger part apart from the machine. Then row of stitching should be straight and parallel. So what all the rows and of the stitching we are doing, it should be straight and parallel to each other. Then sieving parallel lines without marking. So first we have practice of stitching or sieving parallel lines with marking, but now we will practice sieving parallel lines without marking. And for that we do stitch straight lines on plain paper with no lines drawn. In the earlier we have drawn a line on a paper, and then we do the stitching practices on that particular line. But after we have done the practice on that or that type, what we do, stitch straight lines on a plain paper without drawing any line. Then we start with a outer edge of the pressure foot aligned with the edge of the paper. Then while stitching, focus on the edge of the pressure foot and not on the needle. So this is very important, that while we are stitching, we should focus on the edge of the pressure foot, not on the needle. Continue until the paper is filled with a parallel line at a distance of one pressure foot from each other. So while we are sieving a parallel lines without marking, we take pressure foot as our marking. Like at a distance of one pressure foot, we draw one line. So drawing this is in this way we achieve stitching parallel lines without any marking, and we get a practice on how we will draw a straight line on stitch a straight line on a piece of paper. Then sieving straight lines of varying lengths, like we draw straight lines of various lengths, like there are some short lines, there are some long, then in a ascending and descending order. So start from the longest line and proceed to the shortest line. Start from the end that is shown on the vertical line and proceed towards the other end, and then stitch on the vertical line also. This is how we do practice for the sieving straight lines of varying lines. Then sieving the corners. So when you go for the garment construction on the later part, you will get many areas on the garment where you will get to stitch on the corners. So stitching on the corners is something very technical thing. So to practice for that particular part, we do the exercise of sieving the corners. For sieving the corners, what we do, on the piece of paper we draw a line, this type of shape you can see in the image, like it is a parallel line with the ends joined. So exercise for corner practice, for developing skill to sew the pockets, collars, cuffs and any other corner finishes, you practice this type of sieving practice. So you should stop and turn at the exact corner. What we have to do, we have drawn a line, set of lines, and we just start from one point and just go if we are having the turning or the corner point, we stop there, we move the needle, we move the paper while needle is inserted into the paper, and then start the stitching again. So all angles should be at the right angles. Make sure that you get a needle hole at each corner point. Then after that we practice sieving advanced corners. Like advanced corners, you can see in the picture, this is a type of lines we have drawn starting from the middle and ending at the outermost part of the square. Then we start stitching from the outer end and proceed inwards. Then as you go inward, the length of the line becomes shorter, and all lines should be parallel and corner sharp. Like when we start from the outer part, when we go in the square thing, the corner should be very sharp and stitched very particularly. So all lines should be parallel and corner should be sharp. Stop at each corner point with the needle into the fabric. So as we discussed earlier also, when we do stitching and it comes the corner point, needle should be inserted into the fabric, or when we are doing with the paper, it should be inserted into the paper only. Then we move the paper to get at the another direction and then start the stitching again. So this is how we achieve or we practice of the corners or the extreme or the advanced corners, and which are used for pockets, scarves, and the corner part of the garment. Then we sew the simple curves. When we curves part also we get to on the garment to practice how we see the sew the corner parts. Then it is comes how we will sew the curve part on the garment. So for practicing the simple curves on the garment, what we do, we take a piece of paper and we do draw curved lines on the paper, and like this, as you can see in the image, and according to that lines we just practice our machine on these lines. So while using these lines for the practicing, we get to accuracy how we will stitch the curve part on the garment. Then we have the sewing curves. So earlier we have drawn the curve lines which are very broad and with lots of difference, with maximum difference in the distance between the lines. But if we get a design something which have very close curve lines, how we will stitch that line? So sewing the curves, you can draw these types of line on a piece of paper and then practice sewing the lines without removing the needle or without removing the paper after every line. What you have to do, just start from one end and just move the fabric or move the paper, the line as the line goes, and without removing taking out the fabric from the needle, just keep going on the lines. So stitch along the curve starting from one end to the other end and just keep on moving. So you, in this way you will achieve how you can sew the curve lines or the curve part on the garment. Then when you have achieved or you have practiced all these, like what we discussed, we have discussed the sewing parallel lines with and without marking on the paper. We have discussed sewing straight lines of various lengths. We discussed sewing corners without removing the fabric from the needle part, and we have discussed the advanced corner sewing practice and curve and very curve part on the garment. And then all practicing all this on the paper, the points come when you have achieved the accuracy and an expertise in doing all these stitches very perfectly. We go for the fabric sewing. When we go for the fabric sewing, once you have developed some speed control while doing these exercise on paper, you can repeat all these exercise on fabric. Then what you can do, you can take a piece of fabric and draw all these like straight line. You can draw the curve line, the corner lines, advanced corner line, and then practice all that things what we have done on the paper. You can practice it on the fabric. So what all materials we require when we go for the fabric practicing? We need a machine, we need a sieving thread, we need a sieving tools, like we need the scissor, threads, needles, all for the paper. We need the sieving tools, and we need a sample of 20 samples of muslin. Muslin we have discussed in our earlier session what muslin is. It is a type of fabric. So we can take a muslin fabric or a cotton fabric of size 10 into 8 inches for practices. And so this is a small piece of fabric you can use for practicing the stitches, normal stitching on the fabric. So this was about how we can practice and get a good control on the sieving machine. We use all these different types of sieving practices we can do to achieve a good control on the machine, and to know how we stitch the fabric, like in a straight line, in a curved line for the corners. So all we discuss in the particular activity. So when you go with this activity on the first go with the paper to get an accuracy. Once you get the accuracy and you get a confidence with the how you can control the machine and with the speed, so you can then go practicing with the piece of fabric. And when you get a good experience and good expertise with and you feel that now you have achieved that point of accuracy that you can stitch a fabric without drawing or without any marking on the fabric. You can draw the straight line, you can draw the curved lines, you can just stitch the corners accurately. Then finally you can go with the garment stitching of your design. Hope this session was informative for you, and just practice it and you can get a good experience on that. Thank you.